Hello, I'm Joel Kramer, and I'm an archaeology student here in Israel.
How are you so crazy about me? You gave your life to set me free. By your grace that I had never known, I am saved, my life is yours alone. La da 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 da. 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 I was just thinking to myself, am I saved? Where would I go if I were to die today? Could you help me know the truth?
You'll see pottery here, like here and here, with the big white specks in it. And this is early bronze period pottery, which that period goes to 2000 BC. So a lot of our biblical dates are right on the pivotal date that changes one archaeological period to another. So the 2000 is the date that in biblical chronology we assign in general terms to Abraham, and it's the changing date between early bronze and middle bronze. Now, he dug in different place than the excavations that came afterwards that focused up on the summit of the tell. They didn't dig outside of the city. Raouf will tell you that there's this phenomenon of lower cities that are associated with the acropolises of the upper cities. And that's what now I've convinced Shimon Gibson, my professor, exists here. We've been looking at aerial photographs and everything, is a lower city from the late bronze period. This is very common, and so on and so forth. And that's what he was digging in at that time period. In confirmation of date, assured of MB1 technique was picked out of the bonding at the fourth course. So he's saying when I'm digging the walls in the fourth course, I found a middle bronze one piece of pottery inside the wall. That's how you date a wall, is you got to find pottery inside the wall. The origins of the defenses were not tested, but evidence was found of the occupation of the site in the early bronze period, which is the pottery that we see, while as usual, middle bronze wares were most abundant. There was found a considerable proportion of late bronze, age 1, including in the collection of the American School a Cypriot wishbone handle, but nothing of the Mycenaean date or character, nor any local fabrics of the date later than 1400 BC. Okay, so he found middle bronze, late bronze pottery. His identification or his interpretation of the site is based on an ancient text that Joshua and the Israelites destroyed this place. Okay. The excavations that came later up on the Acropolis, which we can talk about up there, didn't find the late bronze pottery, or at least the woman who dug here, Judith Margaret Krause, she dug here for 3 seasons and then she died. She got sick and died, and her husband and son published the excavation report, and the excavation report starts out by them saying pretty much, yeah, we're not going to publish everything that was found here. We're just going to publish what we think is the most interesting stuff, which is the early bronze. So she doesn't say, or they don't say, that what was, all that was found here, they just focus on one period and discuss that so that there's a publication report from that excavation. Okay? So, when they say that late bronze pottery has not been found here, that is not true. It has been found here by John Garstang. Okay, now we'll move up to the top. So, first of all, let's get our bearings. So here's our radio tower that we were looking at from the ridgeline over there, okay? So get that in your heads, because we're going to be looking at it from other places. And you see what I mean, that we're just a little bit north. We're behind that, that tower and a little bit to the north. You see that? And we are east of Bethel, but can we see Bethel from here? No, we cannot. And so Bethel is to our west there. And then also an important position is north. North we have a valley, a deep valley coming down. You see it coming down through here that goes to the front of the tell, and then you can see it continuing on down to the Jordan Valley. Do you see that? Everybody see to the north there's a valley? Then on the other side of the valley we have the saddle where you see the olive grove down there. See that? Yeah. So that's directly north of Etel. This ridge line that the radio tower is on is directly to the west. And then if it was a clear day, you'd be able to see the Jordan Valley, and actually on a clear day you can see the Jordan River, meaning the green from around the Jordan River, called the Arabah. Okay? Okay, so let's read about Ai. Chapter 7 is Achan's sin. And chapter, Joshua, yeah. So chapter 8, then the Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid, do not be discouraged. Take the whole army with you and go up and attack Ai. For I have delivered into your hands the king of Ai, his people, his city, and his land. You shall do to Ai and its king as you did to Jericho and its king, except that you may carry off their plunder and livestock for yourselves. Set an ambush behind the city. So Joshua and the whole army moved out to attack Ai. And by the way, I should mention this is the second attack on Ai. The first one they got routed, they got whooped. And they had victory at Jericho, then they came up here, they got whooped. They were like, oh my gosh, what happened? And that's when they discovered that Achan had taken some of the devoted things from Jericho. Maybe I should read part of that too. Anyways, I'll go on. Okay, so Joshua and the whole army moved out to attack Ai. He chose 30,000 of his best fighting men and sent them out at night with these orders. Listen carefully. You are to set an ambush behind the city. Don't go very far from it. All of you be on the alert. I and all those with me will advance on the city, and when the men come out against us, as they did before, we will flee from them. They will pursue us until we have lured them away from the city, for they will say, they are running away from us as they did before. So when we flee from them, you are to rise up from ambush and take the city. The Lord your God will give it into your hand. When you have taken the city, set it on fire. Do what the Lord has commanded. See to it. You have my orders. Then Joshua sent them off, and they went to the place of ambush and lay in wait between Bethel and Ai. So where is the place of ambush? It's between Bethel and Ai. So it's west of us, right? To the west of Ai. Well, it just says it right there. So then Joshua sent them off, and they went to the place of ambush and lay in wait between Bethel and Ai to the west of Ai. But Joshua spent that night with the people. Early the next morning, Joshua mustered his men, and he and the leaders of Israel marched before them to Ai. The entire force that was with him marched up and approached the city and arrived in front of it. They set up camp north of Ai. Everybody point north. Okay, so look at the olive trees down there, north of Ai. You see those? They set up camp north of Ai with the valley between them and the city. Is there a valley between us and those olive trees? Yes, there is. Joshua had taken about 5,000 men and set them in ambush between Bethel and Ai to the west of the city. So we've got our ambush over this ridge to the west. We've got Joshua and the Israelites camped with the valley to the north, with the valley in between them. They had the soldiers take up their positions, all those in the camp to the north of the city and the ambush to the west of it. That night Joshua went into the valley. Then when the king of Ai saw this, he and all the men of the city hurried out early in the morning to meet Israel in battle at a certain place overlooking the Arabah. That's the Arabah. If we could have a clear day, we'd see it. But he did not know that an ambush had been set against him behind the city. Joshua and all Israel let themselves be driven back before them, and they fled toward the desert. All the men of Ai, so they're fleeing towards the desert. All the men of Ai were called to pursue them, and they pursued Joshua and were lured away from the city. Not a man remained in Ai or Bethel. So they're not just fighting Ai, they're also fighting Bethel, who did not go after Israel. They left the city open and went in pursuit of Israel. Then the Lord said to Joshua, hold out toward Ai the javelin that is in your hand, for into your hand I will deliver the city. So Joshua held out his javelin toward Ai. So he's down there holding up his javelin toward Ai. As soon as he did this, the men in ambush rose quickly from their position and rushed forward. Can you see it? He holds up his javelin down there towards the city of Ai, and over this ridge, here comes the Israelites rising from their place of ambush and charging the city. They entered the city and captured it and quickly set it on fire. The men of Ai looked back and saw the smoke of the city rising against the sky, but they had no chance to escape in any direction, for the Israelites who had been fleeing toward the desert had turned back against their pursuers. For when Joshua and all Israel saw that the ambush had taken the city and that smoke was going up from the city, they turned around and attacked the men of Ai. The men of the ambush also came out of the city against them, so that they were caught in the middle, with Israelites on both sides. Israel cut them down, leaving them neither survivors nor fugitives. But they took the king of Ai alive and brought him to Joshua. When Israel had finished killing all the men of Ai in the fields and in the desert where they had chased them, and when every one of them had been put to the sword, all the Israelites returned to Ai and killed those who were in it. 12,000 men and women fell that day, all the people of Ai. For Joshua did not draw back the hand that held out his javelin until he had destroyed all who lived in Ai. But Israel did carry off for themselves the livestock and plunder of the city the Lord had instructed Joshua. So Joshua burned Ai and made it a permanent heap of ruins, a desolate place to this day. He hung the king of Ai on a tree and left him there until evening. At sunset, Joshua ordered them to take his body from the tree and throw it down at the entrance of the city gate, and they raised a large pile of rocks over it, which remains to this day. You see it? That's how it's simple. You just come, you stand in the place, and you read the biblical account, the ancient source, and you just look around, and it's simple. Secular scholars, they go, wow, that is so amazing. Wow, look at the detail. This must be where they made the story up. Right? That's not very amazing. The amazing thing is how well the biblical account matches the geography of the land. You see a wall. I can show you a wall right there. There is no other site in this whole area that is a walled city. There isn't. I mean, the explorers before have covered this whole area. I personally have covered this whole area. Bryant Wood has covered this whole area. There's other places where you have late Bronze period pottery, middle Bronze period pottery, like where we're digging over here at Makatir. But as far as a city wall, that's what a tell is. A tell gets its shape because what happened was the battering ram was invented, and you couldn't make your walls the same way. And so what they did is they made these big stone walls, these middle Bronze period walls, filled in the inside of the city with dirt, and then had mud brick walls, as we'll be talking about down in Jericho. They're very distinct. And that's what gives these unnatural hills called tells its shape, is because they have these walls, these fortification walls inside of them that allows them to keep their shape over time. This is a tell. It's called to this day et tell. Tell meaning ruin heap. Over here, you can go over there, you can explore look all around. There's no other tells in this area. Therefore, just from a geographical standpoint, this has to be I. So let me say what I just told them, let me tell you. We're standing here on I, and if you look in the distance there, kind of in the haze, that hill is the Mount of Olives that you see. And so up on top of it you see 3 towers. The one on the right is Hebrew University, the one in the middle is a hospital, the one on the left is a church steeple. And so you can see that we're 12 miles, we're very close to Jerusalem. And if you read the conquest in the biblical text, Joshua and the Israelites come, and when they captured Jericho and destroyed Jericho, they've taken out the eastern flank of the mountain ridge. You see that? Then they come up, and when they take Ai and Bethel, they've taken the mountain ridge. Now they've cut Canaan in half. They do their southern campaign and their northern campaign for the rest of the country. It makes sense from a military standpoint, and it also makes sense when you're reading your biblical text. What happens after Ai is destroyed? The king of Jerusalem starts freaking out and gets together a coalition of other kings to fight against the Israelites, which they're defeated at Gibeon, which is right over here, Gibeon, also in the tribal area of Benjamin. So it's not just this site that makes sense from a geographical standpoint. It's the whole story, and how it unfolds makes perfect sense.